Welcome everyone. In today's video it's Jira Bro back, and today what we're gonna be talking about are going to be your project permissions and some of the permissions that you possibly need to apply to your project so you can actually make that your project is quote unquote secure. So you go to the project settings, then you navigate to the permissions, and within the permissions you will be presented with this vague screen. Now what I mentioned is that each project has its own permission scheme. What actually this means that this permission scheme can actually be changed and actually can be applied to your project based on your settings. So this, what you actually see in here, is the default permission scheme for the project that you have created. Now the first thing that you notice here on the right side is going to be your permission helper. So we're gonna click on this. So I'm gonna say Jira Bro, the user. I'm gonna select it, and now I'm gonna go for a project in here for issue. I'm gonna say YouTube content. First of all, what I want to check is the browse permissions, and first of all, browse projects. First and foremost, this is the most important permission of all permissions, because other permissions are really dependent on this one, and if users have all other permissions but don't have this one, basically other permissions are being useless because they cannot browse projects and issues within them, and they cannot do basically anything. So is there something else in here? I want to say assign issues. Do I have these permissions as well? Yes, I do. Alright, so I have the assign issues permission, which is something that I need. Okay, you can actually go ahead and you can test it for your own user and to see if you or someone else has the needed permissions for the project, because this also helps to determine if some certain user is saying, you know what, I cannot mention someone in the project, I cannot see the updates on my comments. So it is really useful to actually have this permission helper in there, because it can determine the root cause of the issue for your troubleshooting. Administer project. So this is something that all of the Jira admins basically have, and in here it says everyone with the application access with any logged in user has a permission to administer the projects, and also everyone within the project role, Atlassian add-ons project access, also has this permission to actually, it has this role to actually have the administer projects permission. Now, like I said, this is the most important permission to have, because without this, other ones are basically useless. Manage sprints, ability to manage sprints. So this is something you want to check, of course, when you have the Scrum Masters, when you have the project managers as well. People who are actually within the Scrum environment and using the actual Scrum framework to work with the projects, and also they're using the Scrum project type. So then you have service project agent, right? So this is something that you also have. This is for the Jira service management, since you have from one side you have the agents and from the other side you have the customers. Agents are actually the ones who are handling the the requests and incidents, and actually the customers are the one who are reporting the issues to them. That's everything you need to know. View aggregated data. Personally, I haven't used this at all. So this is something that I haven't encountered, and probably you're not going to be encountering with this permission, so you can skip it. Alright, okay, so this is for the view development tools to allow the users in a software project to view development related stuff. So yes, this is if you go back to your project in here, and if you go for the development and you actually go for code, so first of all, what you need to have in here, what is basically Jira going to ask you, is to connect one of your code repositories. It could be like GitLab, it could be GitHub, or it could be Bitbucket, and in there everything is being managed, such as repositories, such as Git requests, and everything else. So that is something you want to check if you have a team who is using Jira to manage the repositories. View read-only workflow. So that is to view read-only version of it. Basically, I haven't really changed this. Why? Because the admins are actually the ones who are handling everything when it comes to doing the work with workflows. Especially, it's indicating in here that we're in a company managed project. So no one else is gonna go around and poke around the workflow and something like that. So unless they're malicious and let's say they want to quit and they want to mess everything up. So that is a different story. We don't care about that. We care about the permissions now. Okay, so first of all, there is like assignable user and assign issues. Okay, what is the difference in here? Assignable user, that actually means that specific user can be assigned to a certain issue. So this is actually an important permission to have, and you want to be able for everyone to be assignable to a certain issue within your project. Then you have assign issues. What it means that some users in there can assign issues to others. This is also recommended to have, because you have, like, for example, you have a product owner, you have developers, you have QAs, for example, that is going to be your team. So the product owner, they're going to assign the task to the developers, and when the developer is done, then they assign this to the QA, and the QA actually gets the review of it. You can actually really simplify this by making an automation of this. So every time a developer says, this is ready for the QA, one of the QA gets assigned to that specific issue. But then the question lies and says, well, we have like 5 QAs, and how are we going to resolve this with the automation? That is actually a pretty good question. So in that case, you shouldn't be using the automation. Then you actually assign as a developer to your QA. It would be great to actually determine this in the meeting, so that would be good. Or there needs to be, because the whole point of this is self-organization of the whole team. So yeah, communication is crucial. Close issues. Right, so this really depends on who actually has the permission to close the issues. Now, this really depends on the requests. Remember, as Jira admin, you're there to assign the permissions that actually the others are telling you, and you can actually give some of the suggestions that might be in place when it comes to, closing the whole issue and giving that kind of a suggestion. Right. So so you want to be aware of this, and you want to make sure that you actually know who actually closes this. Often useful where your developer is to resolve issues and the QA department closes them. That is true. Yes, this would be ideal. But who knows? Maybe there are actually some other folks who are determining if the issue is being closed or not. So this really depends on the business requirement. Delete issues. Ability to delete issues. Okay. Now, you also want to be aware of this, because you cannot let anyone to basically delete the issues, right? Because imagine some angry developer or someone else, who decides to leave the company because they got sick of it, and they cannot handle anything more, and they start deleting all of the issues, right? So this is something that you want to limit, and that you want to say, well, user in the project role of this one can actually delete the issues. Then you have also that options for the edit issues. Now, for editing the issues, well, what actually this means to edit issue? So this is not commenting on issue. Commenting is not same as the editing of the issue. It's not the same thing. Right, so then you have link of issues. So that means if you have a story, and within that story you have some subtasks that are actually being created. So that is one thing. And when you have that, you wanna let's say link that subtext to a certain story, and then you wanna link that story to the epic, and you wanna be like, oh, here's a link, and here's who can actually do this. So you wanna think about that as well. Modify the reporter. Right, so this is the ability to modify the reporter when creating or editing an issue. Right, so by default, the reporter is actually someone who created the issue. Okay, and by default, issue is unassigned in Jira, unless it was specified differently by using the automation, where you can create a trigger, and like when the issue is created, the issue gets assigned to that specific user, and basically that's it. That would be suitable if you have smaller teams. But let's say if you have a team like of 20 people, that's gonna be something different. Move issues. So this is to move issues between projects or between workflows of the same project. Okay, so this is what else you wanna think about. Who can actually move the issues here? It would be like project lead. That makes sense. Let's say if they have multiple projects and they want to move one issue throughout the multiple other projects, yeah, sure, why not? Resolve issues. Okay, so this is to resolve and to reopen the issues. Okay, this includes the ability to set a fixed version. Okay, The fixed version is that version that you actually create, and there is a release of that version as well. Okay, so and then you have an option to reopen the same issue. Like, who can reopen the issue if it was already closed? So you gotta think about that. Who can do that? Schedule issues. Ability to view or edit edits issue due date. Usually this is going to be project managers or product managers or Scrum Masters. I don't think so. Or yeah, let's say even them. Set issue security. Right, so issue security is basically if you have one team, you have defined project roles, and for example, you want to hide some of the issues from others. For example, you have development issues, and you want to hide those issues from the designers. Designers don't care about the development tasks, right? So because they're there to create the design and hand over to the developers, then developers start doing their work. And then you have transition issues. Now what is this? So you had this one, like move issues between the projects, or between the workflows of the same projects, and you have like transition issues. So what is this? Transitioning an issue is like transitioning from one status to the another. So it's from to do, in progress, and then done. And there need to be some of the transitions that are in there. So that actually what does it mean? Waters and watchers permissions. Okay. So ability to view the waters and the watchers of an issue. What actually this means? So someone who watches this specific issue, they get the notifications about everything that is happening in that issue. Who commented, who actually changed what in that issue. So you get spammed with email about that specific issue. But it could be important because let's say that issue gets flagged. What actually means when the issue gets flagged? Well, it means that it needs an immediate action. That something is not like the critical priority, it's like the burning priority, if you can call it. So if it's something that you need to take a look right now, and that's it. Then you have add comments, right? So who can comment on the issues? Who can delete all of the comments and delete own comments? All right? So you don't want to give the permission of delete all of the comments to anyone, because they can go around, they can say, well, nobody said anything to this. But of course, in history, everything is in there. Not only in the history, but also in the audit log. So if they try to lie, it doesn't really pay for them to actually lie, right? Okay. And then you have edit all comments, edit own comments. Same thing. So delete own comments, that is something that everyone should have. And edit own comments, that is also that anyone should have. But this, of course, could be exploited as well. But again, it says that something was being edited. So if that goes into their favor, let them be. Alright, of course, attachments. So uploading the attachments, delete all attachments, delete own attachments. Same thing for the comments and for comments, delete all comments, edit all comments, basically everything. Okay, work logs. All right, if you had the time tracking enabled, who worked on issue, how much, 7 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, and etc. And this is where you can edit own work logs. Well, are you sure you want to give this to anyone? Because anyone can edit their own workflow and they can say, well, I was doing this, I done this in, I don't know, in 2 hours. I worked on this like for 8 hours. And then it turns out that they haven't been working on it for 8 hours. So you want to think about that as well. Okay, so this is something else. This is about the product discovery, and we don't really care about that. So, this is everything when it comes to the permissions. But like I said, browse projects is something that is a must. So this is something that anyone needs to have. If they don't, they're not going to be able to browse projects and issues at all. Okay, so now let me see if I actually have missed something in here. Let's see. Let me just go here. Let me just go to System for a moment. Global permissions. There we go. Okay. Alright, so you have administer Jira. Who is the administrator? Who is the one who has the power to create the issue types, fields, workflow schemes? Well, those should only be the Jira admins and the org admins. And of course, this group right here that you don't want to touch. Because if you touch this, you mess up everything. This group is a big no-no for editing. There you go. Browse users and groups. Another second mandatory permission that needs to be in there. Why? Because to select the users and actually pick them from the user picker, that goes for the assignee. Yeah, and then goes for the assignee when someone needs to be assigned in there. And what else? What else do we have? Another thing to mention for this permission is about the mentioning in comments. How do you mention someone in the comment? You put the @ symbol, and then when you put the @ symbol, then the user drop down is being selected. Now the problem is, what I've seen, like there were some issues like saying, oh, I cannot mention anyone. That means that they don't have this permission. And if they don't have this permission, they don't have the browse projects permission. So 3 things in here. First of all, you make sure that they have browse users and groups. To have the browse projects permission, number 1. Number 2, browse users and groups. And number 3, to check, you go with the permissions helper and you see for that specific user if they can actually be mentioned. Do we also have share dashboards and filters? Yes. Manage group filter subscriptions? Yes. And now all of these other things you can actually ignore. Create team managed projects. And this actually says public. That this actually means that anyone can create a team managed project. Yes, this should be like this. Why? Because a team managed project is actually being managed by that same person who actually created the project. They're making their own configurations. They're all in control. But like we said, they have limited options for configuration when it comes to their project. All right. So that is all for the permissions in Jira. I will see you in the next video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Bye bye.